is part 2 of the BlizzCon Heart of the Swarm detail series, I guess you can call it. In the first segment, we looked at the different balances and weaknesses that Blizzard experienced and that the community experienced in Wings of Liberty in the original StarCraft 2, and what they're going to be trying to do in general to fix that in Heart of the Swarm. Right now, what we're going to do is we're going to look at the full details and descriptions of each unit. So this is unedited. This is from Blizzard directly, and this is all the stuff that's coming up in Heart of the Swarm. So for the Protoss, upon analyzing recent battles, Protoss have identified new areas of improvement that would help them maximize effectiveness. Based on their findings, Protoss have augmented their arsenal with a second psionic unit to counter flocks of mutalisks. So there's your anti-air right there, this new unit. So here we go into the units. So the Tempest. The Tempest is a capital ship dealing massive AoE damage to air units. It also has a standard ground attack, and its chief role is for air superiority. So this is kind of like, I guess, yeah, this is your air superiority. Is replacing the Void Rays and the Phoenix for air superiority. This actually can do a lot more damage quicker to mutas, because even though, yeah, you can kite mutas with Phoenix, this is a way to deal with them mutalisks very quickly. So next one, the Oracle, is a warship, which is interesting, built from the Stargate. So it's for raid and harassment. First ability is Entomb. It blocks the mineral field from being harvested, that's interesting. So we may even see Oracle rushes to deny third bases, which would be really cool. Preordained grants vision of a targeted enemy building, allow the Protoss to see which units or technologies are being researched. This is actually really, really cool. This is going to allow rapid shifts in the metagame. This will probably, we'll see, but this will probably help pros get a better sense. This is like easier scouting. They're making scouting actually really easy for Protoss, because it's you can kind of generalize what's being built or what's being researched. You can kind of figure, if you walk into a Terran base and you see Tech Lab researching something, you're kind of either going to assume that if it's on a barracks, it's probably Stim, or it's probably combat shields, or if it's on a Tech Lab or on a factory, it's probably siege mode or blue flame. You can kind of deduct based on their unit composition or the timing of it, what they're actually going for. But this is just going to make it a little bit easier to determine that. Rounding out, it's got a phase shift, which phases a target building, preventing it from being attacked, using its abilities or grinding technologies. Not only can the structure be a missile turret, but can also be a spire for preventing mutalisks. So this is kind of cool. With the Oracle, you can, I guess you kind of can, it's kind of like a corruption ability. No, it's not corruption. Was it corruption? I don't know, the thing that the Overseers did, that gacked up all over the thing so that they couldn't do anything out of it. But it's buffed a little bit more, that's pretty cool. I like that. It'll phase out. We can see this probably delaying warp gate research. We can see this delaying stims. This is going to be really imbalanced against Zerg, because we can probably see. Imagine if you do that on the spawning pool. No Zerglings, no queens for a little while. That's pretty good. On the Roach Warren, stops off the roaches, and you can go in and kill them. Mutalisk Corruptors, that's pretty cool. That's a really cool ability. So the Oracle we're probably going to see as one of the big metagame shifting units. The Replicant, one ability, transform itself to a non-massive unit, to any non-massive unit. Expensive, so cloning a Zergling would not be cost effective, but transforming into a Raven Infestor or Siege Tank. So that's interesting too. So it seems, yeah, I guess so. I guess you get the ability, the damage and everything of any other non-massive unit. So I guess, yeah, if you change yourself into, say, a Mutalisk, or if you change yourself into a Banshee, that's pretty good. I like that. It's kind of cool. Allows you to do a lot of interesting counter harassment tactics. I wonder. The one thing that I'm wondering about this is whether it's going to be, whether you're going to need detection to whether you're going to need detection to find it if it's like say a cloak, or not a cloaked unit, but like how like the overseers, like if you have detection you can pretty much tell right away that it's an enemy unit. Otherwise it just looks like one of your own units. I mean, I obviously would assume that if it's attacking you, then you probably want to kill it, but this is cool. New abilities for Arc Shield, which can be added to the Nexus, which is adding shields and building armor, as well as a weapon, very similar to a photon cannon. So it looks like we're getting a planetary fortress-esque type of upgrade as well. Only damages light units, so that's kind of good for like Baneling busts, and harasses with Zerglings, Marine harass and whatnot. That'd be cool. Another ability is a mass recall. So since they, that's actually really cool. But so it's kind of like it's like the warp or the mothership. So you get a recall back to the Nexus, but they're stunned for a couple of seconds. But if you need a quick defense, it's pretty good, I would imagine. Retired units from the game. The motherships and carriers are gone. Other than that, yeah, that's interesting. Next, for the Terran. So the Shredder. Shredder's a new unit built from the factory. A mobile. It's in its mobile form. Shredder has no attack. When it's stationary, it channels an AOE to both air and ground, and if a friendly enters the range, it shuts off. So, this is kind of like a tower. I'm assuming it's like a mobile tower that you can use to do damage. We can probably see some contains with this, taking a bunker and a shredder with a couple marines, and then dropping it in front of your opponent's natural, setting up the shredder, and it'll eventually do AOE while your marines in your bunker are wrecking havoc. So that's kind of cool. That'll be cool, interesting. Warhound, small walking ground mech for anti-air with splash damage, so it's kind of like a mini Thor. It doesn't have as much range. Okay, that's cool. Small ground attack weapon that does damage to mech. Really good for siege tanks, so it seems. That's pretty cool. With the Thor got modified, so now so they're saying the biggest problem with the Thor that it was too big. So I guess that they're making it bigger, but in Heart of the Swarm they're only limited to having one Thor out at a time. So I guess they're turning the Thor into the old mothership. But with the Behemoth hit, so it's going to hit really hard, and so it's going to be a big tank, and it's going to hit really, really hard. They're swapping and it's also no longer going to be anti-air. And it'll be really good for taking out a lot of Zerglings. It'll be good for taking out a lot of, I would imagine taking out a lot of like siege tanks or cannons or anything that's it'll help you break a contain really easily. But you're gonna need. It's saying you're gonna need both an armory and a fusion core before you can make Thor. That's interesting. So they're really like that's like the top of the tech tree right there. They haven't really done anything like that where you need two higher tech level buildings to build a unit. So that's interesting. New abilities for the Terran. Hellions get upgraded to transform like the Viking, so they become, so they get a battle mode, so they get stronger flame, that does an arc, which you actually kind of see in the video. It's really cool. Gain HP. So it's really good against a lot of zealots and zerglings and drones. Like, imagine driving up a bunch of Blue Flame Hellions. Now, you know Blue Flame Hellions are already imbalanced against drones, one-shot drones. But imagine dropping a bunch of these guys like right in the back of the mineral line and just spraying the drone line. It no longer shoots in an arc; it shoots or no longer shoots in a straight line, but in an arc, that's crazy. Ghosts are no longer, the cloak's no longer toggled, um, and it's an energy regen ability now. It's just a one-time cost to activate it. Um, you can recloak without nuking or without interrupting a nuke, which is cool. Battle cruisers gain speed, which is governed by a cooldown, so it's just an ability to make your dudes go faster. Reapers, we already saw that. They're not gonna in the first video. They're gonna have a special attack, but they're gonna have health regen. So we might see the Reaper become more of a viable opening for harass. For Zerg, they're evolving still. Blah. Okay, so Viper, flying unit with 3 abilities. Blinding Cloud temporarily reduces the attack range of all ground units. So it's good against stalkers, good against sentries, and immortals and whatnot. So it'll cut their range down so that the roaches can kind of get in there and do more damage, which is kind of cool. Abduct pulls a unit towards a Viper. So, like for example, if you can pull a Colossus into a pack of Zerglings, and then it dies. It's a that's pretty cool. And finally, it's got a one-time ability called Ocular Parasite, which allows you to detach its eye stalk and mend it to a friendly, non-massive unit, turning it into a detector. Interesting. So this may be the new detector unit, but that's kind of cool. So like you turn like a Mutalisk or a Broodlord or something like that into a detector, and you probably, that would actually be really cool. You turn a Mutalisk into a detector with the Viper, and it turns it into a detector because Mutalisks are very mobile, and if you get nailed by DTs, and your Mutalisk can fly around and pick it off because it's a detector. That's really cool. Swarm Host is a slow-moving ground unit with no standard attack, but it's burrowed. It's a continuous stream of slow-moving melee units called Locusts that can be used to lay siege and pressure entrenchment any positions. That's cool. So it's kind of like I think from what I saw, it looks kind of like a lurker, when it burrows, the thing comes out and it looks like it's like a lurker, sort of like shooting its missile. It's kind of cool. It looks like it's got like a shield on its back, and it's pretty cool. I think that'll be a good addition for Zerg. But even though they're really mobile already, they tend to hold a lot of map control. If they're good, if the player's good and they know how to like be very mobile with their units. But that'll be interesting to see. Zerg having a tank. New abilities, Corruptor's Corruption ability has been replaced with a new ability called Siphon, which is allowing Corruptors to target buildings and damage them, which is cool in that now the Corruptors are actually useful instead of just anti-air, which is kind of cool. The damage is converted into resources for the Zerg at the same time. So that's interesting. I wonder what that actually means. Like, does it give them minerals and gas? Like, that would be really cool. I guess that's what it is. Yeah, it's cool. Like you target on a nexus, and it converts the damage that it's dealt into minerals and gas. So that's kind of interesting. Ultralisks have a new burrow charge skill that allows them to dive underground and instantly surface at a target, allowing them to initiate the fight faster in a crowded battlefield. That's kind of interesting because Ultralisks, have a problem. The AI have to move around and get through all the units. They can't really like step over units, so they burrow and go under the units instead. That's kind of interesting. Banelings evolved tunneling claws similar to the roach, and now they can move while burrowed, which makes them extremely imbalanced. That's kind of nuts. We're going to see mobile landmines floating around. Where you can expect to see Banelings being burrowed outside of the Terran base, walking under a wall up into a mineral line, and exploding. That's insane. We're going to be seeing so many great Baneling plays, I think, with this new mechanic. Finally, Hydralisks are now upgraded so they're faster when they're not on creep, which is good because Hydralisks were god-awfully slow. That's really cool. In the retired units, they're cutting just the Overseer. Okay, so yeah, it's seeing that the detection was replaced by the Viper and its Ocular Parasite ability. So the Viper itself isn't a detector, but the Ocular Parasite can make detectors, which is kind of cool. So this is the stuff that we've already seen. Okay, so in the next video, we're actually going to take a look at the gameplay impressions. It looks like what people think about, I guess, what these are, the impressions of the new stuff that's coming up. So yeah, so thanks for checking out the video. We're going to go into the next part of this.